Hey, what's up, everybody? So this is going to be a quick and hopefully painless just patch impressions video, at least from my standpoint. Overall, I think that the patch is a W. There are a couple of things, and I know that there's some differing opinions on whether or not this is going to help or harm the game. Personally, I think overwhelmingly this patch is a win, and I have some reasons behind that. There are some bugs, though, especially going on right now. One is with the Warlock that's pretty substantial that I'll explain. Another is with portals and extracts. Hopefully, the Dark and Darker devs are going to be able to get a patch out soon and fix at least the crashing issues that we're experiencing right now, but I'll explain all of that. Anyway, on to some of the changes. I want to kind of share some stuff, and I have some notes here for you all. So, first and foremost, Curse Mastery, which is a new talent for Warlocks. That talent, that perk, whatever, does not work the way it's supposed to. You do get the 30% additional duration on the curses that you're hoping to get, but it causes problems with interacting with stuff like Torture Mastery and other things. Torture Mastery is only supposed to return HP based on Curse of Pain being on a target, but it still does work with Sacrifice. Before today, Power Sacrifice was working, and it wasn't supposed to be, I guess, anymore, because there's a tooltip that says that it's only supposed to work with Curse of Sacrifice, but it still works with Power Sacrifice as long as you don't use Curse Mastery. Also, for those of you wondering, Hellfire, if you have Curse of Pain on your target, Hellfire no longer heals you for the Curse of Pain ticks with Hellfire on it. Those two things aren't synergizing anymore. You're not getting healed for Hellfire damage on your target anymore, which I assume is also true for any of the other spell damage things that you're doing aside from Curse of Pain and, for the time being, Power of Sacrifice. So that is first. There's your major bug. The second issue is right now, if you go into red portals on at least normal, because we didn't get into high roller, I didn't farm enough because we didn't have enough time. If you go into red portals and you wait for the loading screen, that loading screen almost always is kicking you out to your inventory and is rolling back your account as if you had never run the match to begin with. There is also a bug right now that people are talking about where if you get a kill and you loot somebody else's gear and you end up on the red portal, your account being rolled back, the gear gets returned back to the person that died in game. We haven't been able to duplicate this because people are guessing that it's a possible duping bug. However, for all of the testing that we've done to try and prove that there's items that can be duplicated, we haven't been able to prove it yet. Every time that something like this happened, either the looted stuff that was in the inventory of the looter was retained by the looter, and the unlooted stuff got rolled back on a character to where they got like everything other than what was looted back to them, or everybody just had their stuff returned to them and it was like it had never even happened. On to some of the other small things. So Fortune Teller now has these two new potions. So, well, one new potion and the old Potion of Luck. The original Potion of Luck got nerfed, and this is according to the wiki guys. So the 50 gold luck potion, which I don't think is worth it, is now 20 luck 45% of the time, 50 luck 35% of the time, and 80 luck 20% of the time. The new luck potion is what the old stat buffs were, either 50, 100, or 150, 33, like a third of the time. So I'm not sure, if either one of these is worth running at the 150 gold price point. Maybe this luck potion is worth it. There's also a bunch of new crafts that we have access to on the service side. There's now luck jewelry. You can get luck on this stuff, and then the easiest way to look at the materials, like if you're unsure like what the icons mean, you just click on these, and then you can hover over it. It says Wolf Fang, obviously comes from a dire wolf. Wolf Claw comes from a dire wolf. Gold coins, gold ingots. And then this Grim Smile ring, gold teeth, and gold ingots. These stats don't look like they're changing all that often or at all. From this morning, it didn't look as though these stats were changing, so I don't know if maybe these end up rolling over after a certain amount of time, if maybe the stats end up being randomized. Another good quality of life change, though, is on the service side. In addition to the addition of gold ingots, and you can mine gold now, they also show you exactly what you're getting out of these armor pieces. They're no longer RNG rolls. You're getting whatever is shown for a tooltip on the screen. They don't roll random anymore. So this is both a W and an L because it depends on whether or not the stats are something that you actually have as desirable or not. In addition to this, the Goblin Merchant looks like they're about the same price, but the other merchants have better gear now. You can get up to legendaries on a very rare occasion, but purples rather commonly and blues kind of all of the time, depending on a random rotation of gear. But I have seen legendaries available for purchase just like once in these guys' inventory. but legendaries are kind of rare. The purples show up pretty often, though. The gear, though, that comes off of these has been absolutely augmented. If you notice, for instance, this Shadow Hood has +2 strength on it. The quality of gear as it improves is also giving us quality of base white stats, like baked in stats. Like this tunic is 1 strength. There wasn't 1 strength on an occultist tunic before. The green one will give you 2 strength. The blue one will give you 3. And the other thing here is that plus all is not necessarily back. +1 all can roll on all gear, but the shadow mask will roll +2 on green and blue. Blue looks like it's always +2. Green looks like it's sometimes or half the time +2 and half the time it's +1. I've seen both, but blue shadow masks are now rolling +2 on all, and then you have the other stats. So imagine a +2 all plus, and then plus weapon damage, and then like plus strength for a rogue, or the equivalent types of stat rolls that you would want for like a wizard, or for any of the other classes. A warlock that can wear them. Sorry, wizard can't wear that. For a warlock that can wear plus spell damage and plus all and plus strength or plus will, there's a whole lot of really amazing rolls that could come off of shadow masks. Automatically makes them very, very desirable. Automatically makes them something worth retaining. The Warlock kit, by the way, is now amazingly fun to play. I will show you some things that you're capable of doing in the background here and talk about like a little bit of theory craft. But onto some of the other trades. Service-wise, you have obviously the crafted stuff, but now there are like standalone individual bartered things that you can do, like these Wolf Hunter leggings that are Grave Essence of 5 wolf pelts and some gold coins, or these demon items, Demon Grip gloves, which is a centaur tail, 3 bone, and 25 gold coins. Makes these that are 3 strength, 2 magical healing baked in, and then these are 3 strength, 2 magical healing as well for roughly the same mats that give you a whole bunch of magical healing, but don't necessarily give you like a whole lot on the spell capacity department. Even still, though, if you're trying to get some magical healing points, they're kind of amazing. However, magical healing isn't all that necessary that much anymore because of some key spells that you can get if you have a handful of points of knowledge or spell capacity on your gear. If you're a warlock. So let's just take a look at this. Right now, I have +2 all on the mask. We have 3 will pendant, nothing crazy. I have 1 point of knowledge, 1 point of knowledge, 2 knowledge, 1 all, and then 1 knowledge, 1 additional magical damage. It's not like the greatest and most amazing kit, and I have a white staff. But here's the thing. Because of the stat rolls that I've got, I'm 18 points, or 18 spell capacity out of 19. The target is somewhere around 17 to 18 to be able to run something like this. And the key factors here are Hydra, Summon Hydra, and Life Drain. This is an ancillary thing, and we'll talk about that in a second. Summon Hydra has its own hit point pool. If you cast it at the feet of an enemy, the enemy automatically aggroes it because now it's in the enemy's face and the enemy turns to fight it, which includes the troll boss, by the way. And also Life Drain means that you can life drain your target, which includes the Hydra. So, without needing any additional points in healing, if you are able to run Hydra, which is a tier 6 spell, and Life Drain, which is a tier 4 spell, so you would need 10, which means you need 1 extra point of knowledge. Granted, you're kind of limiting yourself here by only running those 2, but between those 2 things, all you need is the starting staff, and because Will giving you about 30% bonus damage, that means that this Life Drain goes from 3 to about 8, along with the plus spell damage from your starting staff. So you use this to your advantage when you cast Hydra. You use Life Drain on the Hydra, and the 25 points of damage here that you would take in life loss is made back at 8 points per tick over 6 seconds. 6 times 8 is 38. You net additional health. With plus healing, this obviously goes up. With plus damage, it goes up even more because this is based on a 100% life leech chance on all of the plus damage stuff that you have. You get to see the idea behind this as a meme. Hydra also has collision. So you put Hydra in doorways or, blocking mobs, trains, whatever, and they just sit there and get fireballed to hell by the Hydra spitting fireballs at them. It is very, very, very strong for mob trains. It's very strong for bossing. It has an ample health pool, and what it looks like is there's a limit on a single hit in terms of how much damage it can take, because it'll tank 3 hits from the troll. So I think it has a limit on how much damage it will take as a single strike, and which allows it to tank a little bit of damage. But I've seen a a couple of goblins, hit it like 4 or 5 times, and the thing just fell over dead. So it's somewhere in there. Still, though, absolutely amazing utility and very, very good for zone control against opponents. The last piece and the last strategized thing that I have for this build on these perks, Torture Mastery, Vampirism, and Soul Collector, is what I'm running right now because I re-rolled the Warlock. I just started him over level 1 and I haven't finished him up. This Bolt of Darkness is really just for the one-off Haymaker because I can't really figure out exactly how I want to do this yet. Flame Walker is amazing. So the way that this works is you would cast Flame Walker for yourself. It leaves a fire trail behind you that does really great damage. It does 25 damage a second if people are standing into it. And then you cast Phantomize for yourself, and then you start running through your opponents and leave that fire trail under their feet. They start losing their minds. They don't know exactly what to do. The idea is that you make your opponents scramble. So Warlocks now become a very, very good zone control and very good initiator for fights because you can start disrupting people's patterns and make them disjointed, make them scramble to have to get away. And then obviously in that disjointing, you have the ability to counter with your own team and break people off from each other, single people out, all that stuff, right? Like the idea is to disrupt your opponent. Works amazingly well. There's a couple of other spells here that deserve honorable mention though. The first is Eldritch Shield. So the Eldritch Shield, it absorbs magic damage. When the magic damage is fully consumed, you get a 40% bonus to dark damage. So the idea is that you can cast Eldritch Shield on yourself, then end up casting this right here, Power Sacrifice, on yourself. The damage that you take is absorbed by the shield, so you get the benefit of the strength buff, but then have Eldritch Shield eat it, so now you haven't actually lost any life. The shield breaks. Now you have a bonus to dark damage, and then cast something like Bolt of Darkness, or cast something like Ray of Darkness, the beam attack, and now you have a 40% bonus to that amount of damage. By the way, Bolt of Darkness hits like a truck. My shitty build that I have right now with my garbage-ish gear will hit the dummy for 47 damage to a headshot. You can augment this by Soul Collector for the 30% damage as a one-off shot, and then obviously you can augment it from the reactive shield buff. If you could manage that to actually happen when you cast dark damage spells, now you have a 40 or a possibly 70% augmented damage on top of that, which means the potential for a strong headshot of like 70 damage is there. It's absolutely there. So you could, in essence, hit somebody for 70 damage with that bolt attack, which would be absolutely wild. Or you could beam somebody for some serious ticking damage. That beam attack is augmented by spell damage as well, so I could see this scaling amazingly high if you're able to actually like get the plus spell damage on the spell. Okay, so that kind of covers the majority of this. Bloodstained Blade I haven't had enough time with. This also looks incredibly interesting. I don't know if the reactive shield absorbs the damage that you would take from this or not. I haven't tried it yet. Evil Eye is like an R6 Siege drone. So you can cast Evil Eye as a drone, and you can fly it around. It lasts, I don't know, probably 8 to 10 seconds. You can fly that around and try and check around corners. It works pretty good as a scouting mechanic, but the other thing is that the Evil Eye also has collision and its own HP pool. So if you were running like a duo Warlock and you needed something to leech off of, you could have one guy cast Evil Eye and then drain it if you wanted to. So this piece of it, this change is amazing. On the Bard side, Bards are kind of hurt. They require knowledge now in order to be able to have enough spell memory, quote unquote spell memory, in order to be able to cast all of the songs that they want to be able to cast. You need a lot of knowledge and spell capacity to be able to pull that off. The other thing they added with manual dexterity is how fast you're able to play your songs, and all of that is stacked on agility. So they want agility and knowledge. And then on the persuasiveness side, that is based on resourcefulness, and that is resourcefulness now affects Bard's buff duration. So if you have a lot of resourcefulness, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of agility, you have the ability to, I guess, buff people out to the 9s. On the onset, basic bitch Bard is hurting, but we were playing with Nizori for a number of hours this afternoon. He was actually able to get like an okay kit knowledge-wise, and actually was able to get like a good number of songs built up to where the buffs started rolling pretty well. So they are much more gear dependent, but have the capability of overcoming that with preferential gearing. Now to the opposite side. Let's talk Theorycraft kind of stuff here for a second. On the opposite side of all of this, we've got a little bit of a stat squish on gray, white quality gear all the way up through like purple and legendary gear. The differing in damage has been shrunk again to where it only differs between like the lower grade and the ultra high grade stuff by like 4 and 5 points of damage. So really it's going to come down to the secondary stats that are on these items as opposed to the items themselves, which kind of causes a bit of an issue depending on how you look at this. There is the argument being made now that the higher end gear doesn't necessarily have as much of an enticing goal to it to try and get the higher end gear. I have a tendency to agree with that piece. On the flip side, though, there is now also an emphasis on correct itemization. If you are able to itemize your gear really well, you stand a chance to offer a challenge to the guys that went for purples and may not necessarily have very well itemized stuff for the sake of having purples. Because if you go for stuff like armor or stuff like weapon damage on your gear because you wanted like a purple longsword, a green longsword with some weapon damage points on it, or a blue longsword with weapon damage points and some points of strength might actually be more beneficial. So it comes down to well itemized gear as opposed to just higher quality gear, if that makes sense. The quality ends up being in the stats. There's also a big emphasis now on like the +1 all side of things. There's probably no stat in the game that is more heavily weighted toward desirability than +1 all. However, there is something to be said about like a green +1 all is nice, but a blue +1 all with an additional stat that would be preferential like strength or damage is still going to be better, right? So it's going to come down to, again, well itemized gear as opposed to just having purples necessarily just beat out everybody else. I don't exactly know how this is going to go. On the high roller side, there's less of an incentive to go and kill bosses and loot those chests in high roller other than just saturation than there has been historically because of how much more accessible the gear is. But on the flip side, the casual player, somebody that doesn't have a million hours a day to be able to play, that has 2 or 3 hours and might be okay at farming the game, is going to have more accessibility to something like this as opposed to trying to sit and trade chat for 2 and 3 and 4 hours waiting for something super desirable to come along. So there's kind of like a give and take here. What we need to do is pay close attention to the game and its flow right now. Pay attention to the guys on the higher end, like Mendo and Jay Griffey and Repose, and the dudes that are really, really running high roller and live in that, and the people that they play with, and see how that map flow is going, and then take a look at guys that aren't necessarily all the way in there, but are doing things more on the fun side. They're still skilled, but they're playing normals more often, like Anthony or Grims, or even shit myself to an extent. And pay attention to how those flows are going, and see whether or not it feels balanced or more balanced than it did, or if there's an incentive to go or a disincentive or whatever it is, and then report back after a few days just to see like what the meta shapes out to be. Right now though, man, Warlock is really, really fun, and I would encourage people to give it a shot and see what kind of stuff that they can do, because there's some really fun plays that you can make with the Warlock's kit right now. It's not overpowered. It's just really well made if you're more of a strategist player to like disrupt people and like throw them off their game and force them out of position. It's really good. Anyway, thanks so much guys for coming and checking this out. I've got to get some sleep. I was live for 8.5 hours today and then 17 yesterday, and I'm just fucking tired. So I'm going to send this off to Saint. Saint's going to edit it all up, and I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning after I get a good night's sleep. Love you all. Thank you so much for watching my stuff. Thank you for coming by the streams. I cannot thank you enough. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow, okay? Peace.